Outside the Manosphere is off this week, but we're going to rerun one of our favorite episodes. I hope you enjoy.
I do want to say also, guys, if you haven't voted for our Season 2 art poll, it's on our Facebook page. It's on our personal pages. There's a link to it, I believe, on our Instagram. So check it out. Please vote. There's very few right now, and we really want your input.
Testosterone, we have a problem.
This is Outside the Manosphere, where two guys with zero credentials dive past the cliches of masculinity and try and become better friends by actually talking to each other. It's weirdly hard, but we're doing it anyway. Join us.
Welcome to Outside the Manosphere. My name is Carlos.
And I'm Skip.
Skip, my friend. It feels like I haven't seen you in quite some time, even though it's been a week. What's going on?
The kids are out of school, so I am full-time dadding. Yeah.
What does that look like?
It looks like, and we don't have like a house air conditioner and the heat is like on in Prague. So it looks a lot like going to the mall and playing board games with my kids in just drinking a ton of soda from the KFC because it's air conditioned. So we go there during the day because Jess has to get work done. I'd like to get work done, but there's priorities. We're on a triage system here with the kids home. And then go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's the same thing with Canada. There's not a lot of air conditioning in the northern U.S. too. There's not a lot of air conditioning or central air in people's homes and stuff because for centuries you just haven't needed it. But now things are changing.
Oh man. Yeah. It's just like I leave my house and I've drank as much as I can and we're on the tram to the mall and I'm like, I'm thirsty.
What are you drinking though? Because a lot of those things will, like sodas and stuff, will just like sap moisture out of water out of your cells and then actually make you thirsty.
Yeah. Well, at home I drink soda stream. So I drink, carbonated water. But then at the mall, I do like half soda water and half Diet Pepsi to just like really water down all the flavor and everything, and also help with the dehydration. But yeah, I need that caffeine.
I think your issue is in the carbonation. That's why you're thirsty all the time. My armchair diagnosis of your dehydration.
Could be.
At least that's my experience, and I think that's it biologically too. I think you're like a high sodium count, and right there's like a lot of sodium in like a carbonated beverage. I could be wrong.
Well, like the when I'm at home, it's just carbonated water. So and then I cut the sodas with half carbonated water. So yeah, I'm still probably dehydrated from the soda, but but less so than I would be if I just drank it straight.
I like how you said you cut the soda with carbonated water. That's
right. It's my vice. It's my drug. So how's your week going, Carlos? Is it blazing hot up in Canada?
It is hot, man. It's there's like little waves of it where it's just miserable outside, and then not miserable, but it's also so humid that it gets uncomfortable when the heat's up. But yeah, man, it's been a busy week for me just working, but I just came off of a 4-night shift. So I was working 4 nights in a row, which is fine, but like you're either going to sleep on shift or you're not, you know what I mean? So, and when you don't, like you're not really prepared for it if you haven't slept during the day. So it just really messes with you. My watch actually tracks my sleep. You know how they send like a sensor through your blood and it checks your SpO2, like your oxygen saturation in your cells. Well, it also tracks like my REM and like when I'm in deep sleep, when I'm in light sleep, when it's unrestful, and like my heart rate interval. And like by the 4th night, I just wasn't getting any data. It's like, I don't know what's going on. It just stopped measuring my sleep. So yeah, it's been rough. I've been a little wired, a little tired, and I'm just recovering today. So I'm looking forward to one more good night of sleep before I start working again.
Well, we can take it nice and easy today, I think.
I appreciate, yes.
No global politics or anything. We can just, how do you feel about falling in love?
I'm ready. Let's fall in love. I don't even remember where we left off last. What number are we at?
I think it's like 11 or something, but I have it written down here. So, Carlos, take 4 minutes and tell me about your life story in as much detail as possible.
Should we time this so that I don't like take up the whole episode telling you
We've
about my
got
life?
our recording clock, so
Oh, right. Okay.
and I'll allow you some leeway. I'm not going to be like, that's it. I don't want to know anything else about you.
You're like time. You start flashing a red light when I have 30 seconds left. All right, my life story. Let's see here. I grew up in Texas. Born. I wasn't born in Laredo, but I was born outside of Houston. But we moved to Laredo right away. It's right on the Mexican border. It's where my parents are from. As I said before, it's a Hispanic town, Mexican American town, mostly Spanish there. I don't know how it is these days, but it's like, I don't know. You have Laredo, and right across the river into Mexico, you have Nuevo Laredo, which is New Laredo. So it's like twin cities. So lots of like cross-border interaction and families and all kinds of things. Anyway, we moved to Austin when I was about 5, and I grew up in Austin up until I was about 30. Moved to well, let me go back. I'll just tell you like the strifes. How about that? Because that's kind of the shape, the things that shape me. I have I have 2 sisters from my parents, and my father has a daughter from his first marriage when he was like 18. So she's 11 years older than me, but we shared the same birthday, which is funny. She grew up in California, so we weren't close the way we are with each other. My other 2 sisters and I. Anyway, so my parents split from each other when I was 10. If we're talking like life events, you can draw a direct line from like my failure in academia to like that year. Like you can see, oh man, my grades tanked, and I became like disruptive, and I was getting in like little kid fights and stuff, and I became just like it was I guess it went downhill from there. Started smoking weed in high school, and then you could draw a straight line from that to like how it went even worse. Didn't finish high school. I kind of stopped going when I was about 16, and then just like flunked out or just dropped out officially when I was 17. And it was funny. I was thinking about that the other day, actually. I remember seeing the reaction to like the bad kids. The bad kids were like, "You're not in school anymore, man." Like they were like scared for me. I was like, wow. It's pretty hardcore when the gangsters are like have a worried look on their face. So yeah, then I worked for a while. As I said before, I'd worked at Walmart for a couple of years overnights, and then went traveling when I was 20. My buddy and I went hitchhiking all over the country, or I went all over the country. We went our separate ways after a couple of weeks. That was my first. I went west, went all up through California, Oregon, and most of the western states. And then I went up into Canada for the first time. That was my first experience with Canada. And I ended up landing in Vancouver for a couple of months there. I spent a lot of time there. Met my girlfriend at the time there. We went across Canada together. I spent some time at her house in Quebec. She was from Quebec, so English was her second language. Couldn't communicate with her parents at all. They didn't speak English. Came back to Texas, sort of revitalized, got my GED then, started college, really excelled at that, got accepted to the University of Texas. I was ready to go. And then the girl from Canada, as I said before, she died in a car crash and totally tumbled all of my future aspirations. And I was just in mourning for like a long, long time. Didn't go to the University of Texas because I needed time to figure things out. And I ended up going to Texas State, which is, I don't regret it. It's definitely a lesser school, but it was, I learned a lot there. Got a bachelor's degree in English, minor in French. Where else did I go from there? And then by about 2007, I was just like miserably unhappy. Reached out to a friend or some friends and ended up moving to San Francisco for a hot minute. I was there for about a year. Loved San Francisco, man. That was like, I mean, if I could afford to live in San Francisco, that's where I'd be. It was one of my favorite places. It is probably my favorite place on earth. Beautiful city and wonderful just culture all around. Anyway, decided to move to Prague, and kind of another little event. I did not want to go back to Texas to prepare for Prague because I still hated Texas. I didn't want to go. I don't hate Texas now, but that's how I felt about it. I was so unhappy. But in order to do that, I decided, I'm going to buy a bicycle. Hadn't ridden a bike in like 20 years. Bought a bicycle from Craigslist, and then I rode my bike from San Francisco down to LA, and then across from LA all the way. I was planning to go all the way to Austin, but by the time I got to New Mexico, I had just like thorns all through my tires, and like I wasn't enjoying it on the interstate. I was like from the Pacific Coast Highway from San Francisco to Los Angeles was, it's indescribable how beautiful that ride was. But anyway, so I ended up hitchhiking from New Mexico all the way to Austin, and then went off to Prague and thrived there. I think I really enjoyed it there. I really enjoyed like being there. I didn't love the city, and I wasn't wild about the culture. Not to say that like my culture is superior. I just didn't like fit in exactly. You know what I mean? Met Jody there, and then we moved out here because, well, I was ready for a change. Like I said, she loves it there, and she was willing to make the move, and we did. Came out here, tried farming, didn't work, and I switched over to paramedicine, and then I started a podcast with my friend Skip, and that's my life so far. Do you have any questions, Skip? That was a lot more than it wasn't a lot more than 4 minutes.
Oh, no, I mean, like, I do have a lot of questions. I had never heard about your bike trip before. That's really interesting. I mean, you say, like, I hitchhiked all the way from New Mexico to Austin, but, like, you went the lion's share. That's a lot of way on a bike, too.
Yeah, it was a good experience. So we also, I don't know if you knew, we rode our bikes from, Jody and I rode our bikes from Prague to Vienna, or almost to Vienna. We were a couple hours from Vienna, and it was just like, okay, we're done. But that was a good ride too. I highly recommend that kind of.
You guys did the green belt thing?
Yes, yeah. It's called something else, the Green Way or something like that. But
Way. That's right. Yeah, I've dreamt about doing that for a few years, or for a lot of years, probably now at this point.
Yeah. It was nice, much nicer than riding on the freeway in the United States, and it's a really really nice trip. And in Europe, it's all along the not all along the Iron Curtain Trail, but there is an Iron Curtain Trail where you can follow it. And there's like there were times we'd be riding through like a road that cut through like a pea field, and you'd see like this concrete dome in the field. And I'm like, what is that? It's like, oh, it's like a bunker from where they would like fire on tanks coming in the road and stuff. But they're all abandoned and like spray painted, and they don't celebrate that stuff at all. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, it's there, and we're just gonna grow around it.
Did you ever go to the bunker bar in Prague?
I don't think I did. No.
Oh yeah, there's like a weird bunker, and it's like real close to Rigorovy Sady and Sadolshansky, and there's just like, it's in a park, and there's like a door in the side of the hill in cement, and you go down, and it's just like the spiral down this silo, and there's like a bar down there and stuff. And it used to not even be like a legit bar. It used to just be this place. Like, I went to a party there once before it was like a legit bar, and there were just like people jamming on guitars, and then you go back into other rooms and they've got drinks, and it was weird. It was cool.
Yeah. I don't even think I'd heard of it before. I mean, is it relatively new?
I mean, the bunker certainly isn't.
Sure.
I think they turned it into like a legit bar. Gosh, I've been here for too long, and I don't get out much. Like maybe even a decade ago. So it's been a while. But yeah, I think that's where I came up with one of my rules for a party, which was if somebody busts out a pan flute, it's time to go.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, man? Give me 4+ minutes of your life story.
Yeah, I feel like this was. I feel like these questions, if you're meant to fall in love, I think they're for younger people. We've got extra years to account for here.
That is 100% true. Yeah, and I gave you the Spark Notes version. Is that even a thing? Spark Notes. Anyway, I gave you the quick version of my life.
Yeah, all right. I'll give you the quick version of my life. So I was born. We lived in San Jose, California, so in the Bay Area. Where all the tech stuff is now. My mom worked for Apple. So she worked with Jobs and Wozniak, and what a horrible person Jobs was.
I keep forgetting about that. Yeah, you're going to have to tell me some stories on that.
Yeah, and my dad was a pharmaceutical salesman. So they both were like crazy, crazy workers. 70, 80-hour week. Like if you didn't work 70 or 80 hours a week at Apple, you were, persona non grata. Like they really demanded it. So yeah, we were in the Bay Area. I spent a lot of time at my grandma's house with some of my other cousins, because my mom's got 6 sisters and a brother, and all of them have kids. So there was, always people living there basically. And my dad's parents lived next door. My parents were next door neighbors.
That's cool.
Yeah.
If you like them.
Literally, my parents couldn't be like any more Americana. My dad was a track star football player. My mom was the prom queen. They lived next door to each other. Had the nuclear family with a boy and a girl. It's just like, yeah. So in any case, that was a lot, working all the time. And eventually we moved to Grass Valley, California. And then, or actually we moved to Chico and then Grass Valley, California. So um, slowly smaller towns into the mountains. And there's not a ton to say about that. Like I had a surprising amount of death in my life when I was a kid because my grandfather had a brain tumor and he died like a month after my birthday, my 13th birthday. And then I had an aunt that literally just dropped dead. She just had like, they did autopsy after autopsy. They never figured out why. She was like in the middle of putting on her coat and she died. And just like a bunch of things, basically till I was in my 20s, I had somebody die on my birthday or two people die on or close to my birthday almost every year. So I didn't really celebrate my birthday much. But just kind of kept going in high school. I was fairly similar to you, except that instead of dropping out, I just barely went to school. There was a while where I didn't go to school for, I don't know, several days, and I was forging notes, and the school caught me. And we had a meeting with my parents, and everybody was like, it was my senior year, and everybody was like, so we've got to punish you because, you've done something really wrong. Like you're forging notes, you're not going to school. And man, I was a ballsy little shit. I just said, like, I'm not going because I don't like it. So if you make it worse, I'm just going to drop out. And I don't think any of you want that. So basically they changed my entire schedule. I got some free periods. I had like TAing for my wrestling coach, and I didn't have to go to school that much, which worked out because it was kind of what I wanted. And yeah, I didn't do real well in high school, but then I finished high school and I started going to community college because it was in the same town. And inexplicably, I totally didn't earn it. I got a 4.0 my first semester, and I was like, whoa, I've never had one of those before. And yeah, I kind of blossomed in college. It was really, it was what I needed. I was like, I can go to this class 2 days a week and do as much homework as I want and or as much time as I need. I don't need to spend a bunch of time in a class, going slow. It was kind of more tailor built for me. So yeah, I blossomed in college. I still didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I moved to Reno. I went to college there. I dropped out again because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to the career center, and I took all these tests, and I asked, like, I wanted to know what I should do. And the lady's like, well, I'm looking at your test results, and it looks like you could probably do whatever you want. But maybe school's not the best thing for you right now because you don't have focus. So because of the college counselor, I dropped out of college and I worked at a bunch of jobs, but I landed at Victoria's Secret for a long time, where I was like working in the stock room for 10 hours a week because they needed like a dude to move boxes. And then Christmas came around, and I was allowed to go on the floor. Everybody could get as many hours as they want. And I became the number one, like, do you know the credit cards? Stores always have credit cards.
No, I guess I don't know.
So like a Sears card or whatever.
Like they're counting your purchases and they're giving you points or whatever, that kind of thing.
But it's like a literal credit card. All the cards in the U.S., all the stores in the U.S. are always trying to give you credit cards.
Yeah.
So there was a card called the Angel card there. And I became the number one person on the West Coast to sign people up for the Victoria's Secret credit card. So I quickly moved up because that was like their big goal. And I became a co-manager, and yeah, I was managing a Victoria's Secret as a 20-year-old dude, which was interesting. And so I moved around retail for a while, and just eventually I was like, I can't do this. And I went back to school, and I was like, I'll get a degree in any goddamn thing. I just can't do retail anymore. But yeah, I did that. I was kind of I was unhappy in my life. I tried to move to Hawaii for like 4 months, and I was really, really unhappy in Hawaii. And
we're gonna come back to that.
Yeah. And then I moved to Prague, and I've kind of just like, there have been some things that I've done since then, but I came for like a month for a teaching program, and I ended up staying for basically till now with time away. Like I walked across the U.S., as you and our listeners might know, and I took some trips. Like I drove across Asia and things like that. But I've basically been here. I met my wife on one of my trips after my first. So after my, I'll do the really really quick version from now on. After my walk across the U.S., I was very much like I imagine you now. I was very happy. I was very open to the world and things like that. And in many ways, it was the first time in my life. And I met a woman that was not so great. And all my defenses were down. All my defenses were down. I was like, the world's great. Everybody's great. And we got married, and it was just terrible. It was terrible for like a year and a half. We got divorced very quickly. And I went on some like trips after that. I went across the Asia, and I went on some hikes, and then I went to Reno and met up with some old friends, and I met Jessica, who is a friend I've had had for 15 years from college, and we started dating, and we got married pretty quickly. She moved here with her kids, and that was kind of all she wrote.
Well, nice, man. That's
Yeah.
I'd like to know more if you're willing, and I don't mean right now, but about. Well, I mean, it's. I don't like focusing on the negative, but I'm curious about the personality of the woman that you married and like why that didn't work out. If that's something in the future you want to talk about, or if that's just a chapter that's closed and you're kind of
no, yeah, it's fine. It's funny because it was so short and it had such a negligible impact on the rest of my life that like I forget that I was married before most of the time.
Yeah, well, that's good, man. That's that's the best way to deal with it, I think.
Yeah, like total closure.
Yeah.
Erased from memory because I don't have that great of a memory for my own life anyway. But then every once in a while I remember about it, and I'm like, oh yeah. I'm an open book mostly. Yeah, I'd be willing to talk about it.
Well, so what didn't you like about Hawaii, and where in Hawaii were you?
Yeah, so I went to Lahaina, Maui because my parents had moved there, and they were in real estate, and they were like, come here, like I wasn't having a great time in Reno. Just through weird things, I was in a house I didn't like. That I had bought a house that was kind of outside of the town, and it had been belonged to like some drug addicts, and there was like we found needles in the place, and it was just kind of real shitty. Yeah, and it was shady, and I lost my master's program, which was fortunate. I was like filed as one kind of student, and I thought I was a different kind of student, and I didn't take enough credits, so I lost my scholarships. I had a full scholarship, and they were like, "We'll try and work it out," but it worked out in the end because I figured out that maybe it was a better choice not to do it. And like I had broken up with a girlfriend of 4 years, and so I moved to Hawaii. And my parents were in real estate, and they were like, "Yo, do real estate." And when I got there, like it's a beautiful place, it's wonderful to visit. But if you have a hard time shutting out, like I don't have good cognitive dissonance for a lot of things. And like I was, as trying to be a real estate person, I was trying to sell things to multimillionaire, rich white people. I'm surrounded by a bunch of poor, like really poor Hawaiians for the most part, like that have had their land taken from them, have been pushed into a different religion. Now they work in hospitality, and people that come on vacations think their pidgin dialect is cute, and it felt really yucky to me.
Right.
To put a really scientific word on it. It just felt like I was helping destroy everything that was nice about the place, except, obviously not the picturesque view and everything, but, just kind of part of the problem. And I wasn't able to sort of ignore like, the people that had lived there, the native population, they didn't have a lot. And there weren't like programs, like good comprehensive programs to help rectify that in any way. They were just there as help, and it was kind of gross to me. So yeah, I wasn't very happy there. So I came to Prague, and then I was happy.
Well, they welcomed you differently probably than in Hawaii, because in Prague I found like, and maybe I've said this before. So I guess as I understand it, they in Hawaii they call like white Americans haoles. Yeah, they're like
Howleys, yeah.
yeah, they're not from there, and they kind of overtake. Even I went on a tour there because my father ran a marathon there in 2002, and so my sisters and I went, and we went on a tour of like I think it was like a natural tour or whatever. And the guy there was this wall of vegetation in like the beginning of the forest, and he was like he walked right up to one little plant, and he said, "This is the only native plant in Hawaii. Everything else was invasive." Anyway, so what I recall of Hawaii was that there's a lot of maybe not hostility, but just sort of resistance to more people coming in. But all that's to say is that in Prague, I found the opposite. If you're of a culture that they respected and enjoyed, they laid out the red carpet for you, and it was very much an undeserved sort of welcoming and
Oh yeah.
elevation. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know if it's the same thing now, but at least at the time it was like, you're American, come over here, come meet my family, and come to my wedding, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can't count how many times where people would be like, where are you from? And I was like, well, originally California. And they're like, you were from California and you came to the Czech Republic? Why would you do such a thing? And, like Northern California, the climate is very similar to here. So like it wasn't that wildly different from where I'd spent a lot of time growing up. But yeah, people think of California and they're like the beach and stars and it's awesome. And yeah.
Well, it's cool. You and I were also lucky going there. You're from California, I'm from Texas, and they're two very recognizable places in the U.S. So if I had said like, oh, I'm from Nebraska or something like that, they'd be like, where is that? Oh, it's in the States. Okay, you're American. And then it would go from there. But I wouldn't even say I'm American. I'm from Texas. I'm like, oh, Texas. And I got a lot of fanfare from just the place that I was born. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. Yeah, I had that every time I traveled. Like even the first place I had gone was Mexico when I was 20. And, like I remember being somewhere and they were like, where are you from? California. California. It's like, all right, like, I didn't make it,
You're like, thank you. Yes. Here, kiss my ring. I met a woman here in New Brunswick, and when we were chatting, and she found out where I was from. She's like, so you're from Texas and you lived in San Francisco and then Prague. She's like, and now you're in New Brunswick. She goes, you must be so disappointed.
Oh, that's hilarious.
All right, Sip, well, we're going to shift gears here. And I had sent you an article called White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. You ever heard of that before?
I mean, I've heard of white privilege, but
sure.
And I think I may have heard of Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack before. They're the Invisible Knapsack. I kind of get intuitively what it's about, but I definitely haven't gone into any kind of depth in it before.
Okay. Well, it was written by I believe she's a professor. I don't have is associate director of the Wellesley College Center for Research on Women. And I say because I didn't know how to pronounce Wellesley, and I'd never heard it before. Anyway, her name is Peggy McIntosh, and this article was brought to my attention by a friend of mine, in San Francisco, actually, since we're talking about it. A guy I've known my whole life. His name's Bobby, one of the most intelligent people I've ever known. And he brought this article to my attention, and I'll just, I'll read you the introductory paragraph of it, so you get an idea of what it is. So again, this is a White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack by Peggy McIntosh. She says, through work to bring materials from women's studies into the rest of the curriculum, I have often noticed men's unwillingness to grant that they are overprivileged, even though they may grant that women are disadvantaged. They may say they will work to women's statues in the society, the university, or the curriculum, but they can't or won't support the idea of lessening men's. Denials that amount to taboos surround the subject of advantages that men gain from women's disadvantages. These denials protect male privilege from being fully acknowledged, lessened, or ended. Now, she started it off as like a kind of a study on how men are overprivileged, and it kind of evolved into white privilege just in general, because she would talk to her colleagues about it, like her African American colleagues about it, and they'd be like, yeah, you don't even know what you're talking about.
What's that big move to intersectional feminism,
Explain.
so intersectional feminism, for a long time, feminism, in larger culture was, white ladies fighting the patriarchy, and exactly what you said, like that, it doesn't account for the experiences of women of different races that have wildly different experiences in some cases, and a lot more issues. And the idea that, if you're just doing like rich white lady feminism, you're not really doing feminism. You're doing
Right.
you're
Yeah.
doing kind of like this very narrow, I want to do what benefits me thing.
That's exactly what she's discussing here, and I wonder if this wasn't the genesis of that whole line of study, because this article is taught in schools now, and I believe she wrote it in 1989. It was quite some time ago, so or
It
88.
might not be taught in schools anymore.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually. So what she had done, I call it an article, but it's really just like a list of, I believe, 50 statements on race. I have found that some of these maybe are a little bit dated, and I think specifically they are targeting or maybe referencing the African American experience. But I mean, this can be applied to anybody who is recognizably not white, I think. So I thought, or actually you thought, I think it'd be a good idea to kind of go through all of them at some point. And so I think we're going to go through 1, 2, or 3, see where the discussion takes us, and then we'll pick it back up another time, and we'll just kind of slowly take little bites out of this and see what we think about this stuff. I don't want this to for anyone to think this is a like a scolding on being white or meant to make anyone feel uncomfortable in their own skin. This is just maybe something that you hadn't thought of, that I hadn't thought of, that others hadn't thought of as an experience that someone else is having, which is exactly what happened with Peggy McIntosh. She was talking about it with her colleagues, and they're like, well, let me tell you from my experience, What were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. It's all, for me, I like trying to identify with other perspectives and think from other perspectives and think about what I don't even notice that a lot of other people do. So I just thought it would be interesting to see, because I just kind of read through a few of those questions, and I thought they would just be interesting kind of mental exercises for you and I, especially, since we like talking about these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And our experiences might be really different. So
Right.
I thought
They
that
definitely will be. Yeah.
So I thought that would be interesting for both of us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's give it a shot. So before we begin, I did want to also address the title, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack, and I'm going to read one more little part here. She says that she has begun an untutored way to ask what it is like to have white privilege. And she says, I have come to see white privilege as an invisible package of unearned assets that I can count on cashing in each day, but about which I was, quote unquote, meant to remain oblivious. White privilege is like an invisible, weightless knapsack of special provisions, maps, passports, code books, visas, clothes, tools, and blank checks. So that's what she's describing when she says that there's white privilege is an invisible knapsack of advantages that we are essentially born with. And I say we because I am a white man. I mean, I'm not black. I'm not an oppressed, at least visually, person. Not to say that African Americans or anybody else is oppressed, but this is we do live in a new age, and historically they were very much oppressed. So with that in mind, we'll start with the first one, and they're just 50 statements, right? We'll go through a few of them. So the first one says, I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time. Now, when I think about that statement, I think like if you're in a dense city, maybe like New York City, not always the case because Prague would be very different. You can do that very thing. If you're from Puerto Rico, if you're from Korea, there's a big chance that you'll spend most of your days within the people that you want to be with, right, or that you are most familiar with. But if you live in New Brunswick, for example, or if you live in Prague, which is a bustling city, but it's full of Czechs, and Czechs are not super diverse culturally.
Yeah, it's a very homogenous country for Europe.
Right. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. And what do you think about that first statement? If I I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things that I think about. Like, for one, if I didn't want to be in the company of people that were my own race, not including my son, who's a brown kid, but like just out around, I'd have to engineer that
Right.
because Prague is largely white. But like the core of what this question's getting at is, in some cases, the discomfort of being visually different and distinct, and the repercussions of that. And like, obviously being a white dude, I haven't had a lot of negative repercussions for that. But I can say, like, in places that I've traveled where I am visually distinct, like in Morocco or something like that, or Egypt, you stick out like a sore thumb. And, like, you'll be walking down the street and people will be coming up and begging for money, or kids will be coming up and grabbing your arm and stuff like that. And obviously that's far from being discriminated against.
Right.
But I 100% get the idea that, especially if it was more negative, you'd very much wish that you could just turn that shit off.
Right.
And I think that's kind of part of the core. And there's also a code switching that goes on, to a certain degree, because like I've heard a lot of a lot of black people say, like I'm around my white friends today. I got to use my white person voice or something like that. And, I think that's true. And like all, like my kids code switch when they go out and hang out with their Czech friends. Like it's when you're in different cultures that collide, like you have to deal with that. And sometimes you just want to be fucking comfortable in who you are. And I think that's what this question's getting to. But again, like I haven't had to deal with it. And, the way that I know that you've talked about, like when you were younger, certainly the way that you've dealt with it. So I'd love to hear your experience.
Yeah, you reminded me of, I was talking to a friend of mine, this is years and years ago, and I said my sister's name and I said it the Spanish way. And he like stopped listening to me, or I was telling him a story about a story. And in that story, I was speaking about my sister in the way I would speak her name. Yeah. And he like tuned out for a second because he never heard me say her name that way.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, and before then it never occurred. And I hadn't thought of it either, but like, oh yeah, I code switch because when I'm at home, I say things a certain way, and I'm with like the people that aren't of that culture, I switch it for them so that they don't have to question that sort of thing and they don't have to think about it. And I didn't in this case because it was just appropriate for whatever story I was telling, and it like intrigued him. It was interesting. I just never thought about it that way. But yeah, going back to like your being in Morocco or Egypt or something like that, I think that's a great example. And yeah, it's not about an oppressive sort of experience, but imagine living there. You know what I mean? Imagine being there for your whole life. And if you are Moroccan or Egypt in culture because you were born there, you were raised there, your parents just happen to be American or whatever, you probably have, well, you might not have an accent, but like you'll probably speak Arabic like a native, and you'll identify with that culture, but you'll always be different. You know what I mean? And they'll always come at you with like pulling at your coat or whatever for money, or they'll always expect you to give high tips because you're European, and they're always going to expect something from you. And would you be able to arrange to be just in the company of white Europeans? Maybe, but it's work. And yeah, and that's the experience I think of a lot of minorities in the United States. Again, that's not to say like in some of the bigger cities, but even in the bigger cities, man, like you have a job, and when you go to the office or wherever, you're still going to be among generally white people. You know what I mean? And as for my own experience, I mean, I kind of talked about it before, where like moving to Austin in the mid '80s, it's the demographics have changed quite a bit since then. But at the time, it was like all white. And I was a lot darker skinned then than I am now, because now I'm like a cave troll, and I'm not in the sun the way I was when I was younger. But I was very noticeably not white. You know what I mean? You know, quote unquote, not white. So yeah, and being out here, like I had a shift with a paramedic the other day, and you can see who you're going to be paired with. You can see their names and a little bit of information about them. Like they can see that I'm new. And this woman, and I could expect that she's going to be a white woman, because why would I think otherwise in New Brunswick? And when I was chatting with her, she was like, "Oh, I saw your name," and she's like, she's like, oh, I didn't know what to think. And like, is he Mexican? Is he from like Cuba? Like, is he going to speak English? She had all these expectations of what I was going to be before I got
Yeah.
there. And then it quickly went into like a joking, like teasing sort of thing. She was like, is he going to bring tacos? Is he going to make me tacos? I'm like, well, now you're being racist. I was joking. I was like, now you're being racist. She's like, I'm just kidding. I'm like, I know you're kidding. I'm like, it's fine. But like, that's the experience. Yeah. That's, and it's fine. It didn't offend me or anything, but like, it's a novelty when you're in a place that is largely not of your culture. You're a novelty to them, and they get over it pretty quick. But like, you gotta do the whole like, haha, yes, okay, get it out of your system, and then we can continue. And that's from you take a picture of him and you see, okay, yeah, he's got dark hair, thick eyebrows, but he's a white guy for sure. Yeah, I could say my name. I could say my name is Dan, whatever, and they're gonna be like, yeah, he's a white guy. They've never know that I'm Hispanic. Well, they might suspect, I guess, but I could also be Mediterranean or something like that. You know what I mean? I could be a lot of things. So yeah, that's a lot of rambling for me, but does that kind of answer maybe your curiosity a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. And I think this is a good time to this is kind of why I wanted to get into this, was these little subtle things that, like you're even saying, that this happened and it's not that big of a deal and like things like that. But, imagine if everything was more like, and you've dealt with this considerably in your lifetime, but imagine like as our listeners, if this was all the time and this was how you lived every day, like none of these things are huge damages, but they like add up, and just like the way you'd constantly being, or imagine it like you live with somebody that like does something that you don't like and they won't stop. I think everybody can identify with that, and just like that continual annoyance. And I think it's a good chance to talk about like, this is what, like when we're talking about white privilege, a lot of times it's these small things, but this is just one of them. And it's one that happens constantly. It's one that happens constantly all the time that people have to deal with. But then on top of that, there's a whole bunch of other things that are layered. And I think like there's been some other reporting recently that I think is interesting with like white males and especially younger white males that haven't grown up with a lot of the same kind of privileges as older white males. Mm-hmm. And like because it's decreasing as the years go by,
right?
Some of the benefits, like why they don't understand, like, because they're not getting a lot of the benefits of white privilege, but that we need to still recognize, like, or it's good to recognize the experience of what it would be like to not be white. And just because you're not getting a lot of benefits doesn't mean other people are still not getting crapped on a little bit. Right. And then
or even a lot, depending where you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the other side of the privilege is the white fragility, because I've had friends that were incredibly fragile about this kind of stuff, where even the suggestion that there's any benefit to being white just makes them blow their top. And it's like, so like the idea that you could get some advantage because they want, like everybody wants to be this bootstrap, I did everything by myself, I built this kind of culture. And that's just not the reality that we live in. We have a lot of benefits from who we are, or detractions from who we are. And like, just because you don't have any kind of like profound family wealth or something like that, to not recognize that other people have it harder a little bit is just kind of, it's kind of crazy to me. Like, let's dive into that experience and figure out the ways that we can, if nothing else, the ways that we can be thankful for our experiences.
You know what, man? That's a really good way of phrasing that, just to be thankful for what you've got. And that's not to say like, shut up because you've got a lot. It's just be like, hey, why don't you just like look and see, your successes and celebrate those. You don't have to say like, well, I'm not going to get more or this is it sort of thing. You know what I mean? But just like acknowledge what you have and be happy with it. I am. Yeah. I've got a lot of privileges and I'm super happy with it.
Yeah. I think where people like don't like that, especially, and I understand, is, I've got multiple friends that are white that have had all the privileges that white people have, and that are like they'll miss a paycheck and I have to give them a loan because they don't make enough money. Like it's hard to hear that you have privilege when you're one paycheck away from having no place to live. So like I get some of that anger, but it's not about like saying, "Oh, you've got it so good." It's about recognizing that some people have additional things that they have to deal with on a daily basis. And I don't want to say like, "Oh, you should be I don't want to be like a blanket, "Oh, you should be thankful for your like you should be thankful that you don't have to deal with these things." Yes, it can still be really, really hard. And like we can appreciate that difficulty, but yeah, appreciate that you don't have to deal with those things, and maybe give other people the appreciation that they do.
Right. And I think also, I guess I want to backtrack a second. I don't mean to say like, I'm going to blanket statement this because feeling gratitude for what you have applies not just to people of privilege. It applies to people with disadvantages too. And that sounds really shitty to be like, oh, you're disadvantaged. Well, be thankful for what you have. That's not what I mean. I think it's just a really, really healthy mindset to, I know we've said this before, is to feel gratitude for the things around you. And I think that once you are feeling that way, you're out of a state of victimhood. And whether it's like a victimhood for being Black in America, or being, any other minority in America, or victimhood for being white in America.
Poor.
Yeah, or being poor. Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can look at these things as a grievance, and they're legitimate in a lot of cases, but you don't have to focus on them that way. And rather than that, focus on the good. And I think that it really pulls you out of the muck of I've said this 1,000 times, of the negativity that you're mired in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to like that gratitude mindset, and I think there's a lot out there that tells you that your life improves when you have that. But I don't want to like discount people that are having a different experience and aren't there, and say like, well, like you said, it's about being thankful for what you have, but it's not about like ignoring all the things that you don't. It's really like try and find those things that make you happy, because it'll make you move forward in a more positive way and be able to improve your life.
Exactly.
So what can we unpack from our invisible knapsack in the future, Carlos? Let's give it a little preview.
So in the future, I'm just going to read a couple of them here. We're not going to unpack them now, but just to kind of get an idea of what we're going to be looking into. So question number 14, I can arrange to protect my children most of the time from people who might not like them. I think that's a fascinating thought.
Yeah, I'll have some things to say about that.
Yeah, okay. Question 20, I can do well in a challenging situation without being called a credit to my race. The next one, question 21, I am never asked to speak for all people of my racial group. Question 34, I can worry about racism without being seen as self-interested or self-seeking. So these are just kind of, there's so many more questions, and they're really just designed to make you think and to make you self-reflect. And I think, I don't know, I'm looking forward to diving in with some of these. And again, I don't want this to feel like an accusation or something that to feel bad or guilty about. This is purely academic, and it's purely to make people think. That's kind of my objective here.
Yeah. No, I think there's some interesting questions in there that they're just, like, this is what we do. We talk about things and we have fun exploring them. So, Carlos, I want to ask you, because it came up earlier, if you were to have a TV show, if somebody gave you a TV show, and I know you don't want to be famous, but if somebody was like, you have to do a TV show or you die, and try and enjoy it, what would that TV show be? What would you design if you were in charge of it?
So it would be very niche, I think. You asked me earlier. I don't know if we put it in the show or not, but so I'm answering quickly because I did think of it a little bit. It would be very niche. It would definitely be woo, because that's just where I'm at, man. And I really feel like my mission in life these past couple of years have been like to get people on board, and zero have. Actually, I had maybe I mentioned her before. Well, I guess kind of my high school sweetheart. We reconnected as friends, but we reconnected online, and I had mentioned some aspect that I was interested in. She's all interested in that kind of stuff too, way out in California. But she's the only person who's like bit down on this kind of thing and like has run with it as well in her own direction. But so yeah, she's the only person, but she didn't need any convincing. So anyway, to answer your question, I think I would do something along the lines of don't have any kind of structure for this fantasy show here, but something along the lines of meditation as well as remote viewing, because I feel like if enough people, I feel like remote viewing is for like left brain men, because I was really skeptical and like I needed evidence, I needed facts, and I wanted it to be proven to me before I took any steps further. And there was enough of it that I'm like, this is something. And so I feel like of all the shitty things in the world, men are kind of the architects of them. And I feel like if we can get men to start thinking more abstract like that, I think the world would change. And anyway, so I think because remote viewing was designed by the military, it hits all those points for a lot of guys like, and I'll say you and me, because even though we've gone like very different directions as far as like perspectives and thought processes, I think we came from the same spot. And that's why I've been hammering at you, because I feel like I can get you at some point. At some point, I think I can get you. And yeah, so my show would be.
I'm willing to try.
We're gonna, but I got to work on your perspective first, because it affects it all, and I don't want to get into the woo of that, but it does. So my my YouTube show, or whatever show this would be along those lines. That said, I have zero interest in doing that for people, and yeah. So what about you? What would your little fantasy show be, where you're the host, where you're the main person, and what would it be about?
Yeah, so I had like thought of 3 or 4 shows when I was walking across the US that I was really interested in. I thought would be very interesting. But I think the one that I enjoyed the most, because I've talked about before how my dream is to build a house of my own.
Like with your own hands? With your own hands?
With my own hands,
like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I want to build a house. And I probably won't get to, but it's something that I slowly work towards anyway, because if I get the chance, then I don't know, I think I'd really enjoy it. Or maybe I wouldn't, and I'd be like, actually, somebody else is going to finish this thing. But in any case, the thing that I wanted to do, and I thought of this in like, I don't know, 2009, 2008, was something called Greenhouse, where I'd be building a house, but I'd be like meeting people and researching all the like most sustainable, like, sustainable things like sustainable power and insulation. Because there was like, gosh, years and years and years ago, there was like corn husk insulation that's like that they make out of, that's really, really good, and it's very ecologically sustainable. And so I wanted to build like this model house of just like ideal sustainability, but with all like the creature comforts and stuff. And I thought that would be really interesting.
So let me interrupt you before you switch directions though. So Google, you may have already heard of it, but Google the term Earthship. Have you heard of it before? Yeah. So there's one in Prague.
Got it bookmarked, man.
So there's one in just outside of Prague, I think. I visited it years and years ago. And I don't remember how far outside of Prague it is, but there's an Earthship there, and they do tours and stuff, so it's pretty neat. And it's the only one I've ever been to. But for anyone who doesn't know, an Earthship is like exactly what Skip was describing. It's made with it's made with garbage, basically. Like the walls are like old tires, and you fill it in with like clay or mud or whatever, and you make it nice. It's not like a hut or anything, but yeah, it's all materials that would be garbage otherwise. And then you can do solar panels, and you can do one facade would be glass, so you can have like a greenhouse within the house sort of thing. They're really, really interesting. And there's a gray water capture, which is water from your sink and from your toilet even. And then you can filter it and clean it and make you wouldn't filter your toilet water necessarily, but like your dishwater, you can actually filter it and water your plants with it, for example. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think from when I was researching Earthships, because I have as well, some of the water gets used like 4 times. Like not like it kind of goes down to where it's like you're using it, like you said, for one thing, and then something where it doesn't need to be quite as clean, and then down to like the plants and things like that. But yeah, so something between an Earthship, I think, and a standard house, where it would be like where you could make. So if the first season went off without a hitch, or however long it takes to build this thing, I'd do like Power City, where you build a whole bunch of these houses. But like something where, because the Earthship stuff is really cool, but I think there's also a lot of newer things that aren't integrated into those designs, and like get real architects and people that are like experts in all these fields where they're actually getting paid, and it's not just dudes like out in the desert that are like, I want to make a cool house, man.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, like really like put kind of like TV show budget effort into making just a really ideal house. I think would be a really fun project to go through, and I think people would be interested in it. But maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think actually now is the era for that kind of thing. Okay, so what's another TV show that you were thinking of?
Oh, the other one that I was thinking, because I couch surfed a lot, so I just you randomly stay with people from this website where they say you can stay with us. And I stayed with in Austin. Actually, I stayed with a dumpster diver, and I can't remember what else, but like one of the things that struck me going down the East Coast at first was, if I were visiting America and I had not been from America, I would think, based on couch surfing, that most Americans were vegetarian banjo players. Because there was a high percentage of people I stayed with that were vegetarian banjo players. But then I stayed with artists, and I stayed with musicians, and I wanted to do a show called Subcultures, where like, did you ever see Dirty Jobs? Which,
I know the title, but I've never seen it. No.
it's just like, there's this guy, Mike Rowe, I think, and he goes and learns some dirty job, like, being a sewer worker, and he like dives into it and like does a show about it. But I wanted to do one that was just called Subcultures, where you like dive into all these little subcultures that like you have no idea. There's just thousands of them around you in a city all the time. Whether it's board game geeks or like roller derby or whatever. Like, there's all these things around you that are like, when you get into them, they're really interesting. And I thought it would just be really fun to like go find these subcultures and dive into them and like get to know the people and see what they're all about.
I think that's a great one. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That one is even more so than your sustainable housing, because, well, that's a weird term for that, but you know what I mean. Because you hit so many subcultures that you're going to identify. There's going to be, the audience would identify with so many different episodes. You know what I mean? Or even if they didn't, it would just be so eye opening for them that they would. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. It's probably a better show, but I just want to build a house.
Yeah. So you've clearly given this some thought. What's the third one?
Oh, the third one was manpower. So where you're traveling around the globe under just like the power of your own body. So like whether you're bike riding or walking or rowing a boat and just like going places. But I think that it was more interesting to me than it probably would be to other people. I think it's more of like, I don't know, just kind of like see what you can do, sort of a thing.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I mean, I'm a man, though. I'm a man with power, so maybe that's why. So I'll have to reflect, and maybe I'll bring it up again later on, because you had asked me earlier while we were recording, and even now I just didn't have a good answer prepared. But compared to yours, anyway. So maybe I'll come up with something later on. But anyway,
I had 9 months to think it up.
For anyone listening, though, these are Skip's ideas, so don't even think about starting your own TV show. And because he brought it up on Outside the Manosphere, they're kind of half mine now too. So these are ours.
Yeah,
and,
but we're willing to franchise. Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me, I watched a clip. I'm not obsessed with Pee Wee Herman or Paul Rubens, but I watched a clip this morning of Paul Rubens being interviewed by Conan O'Brien again. And Conan O'Brien had asked him, like, have you ever thought about, like franchising Pee Wee Herman, like, like finding a younger actor that would, and he's like, oh yes, Pee Wee Herman's for sale. He's like, I've got to post it on, like he was joking, I've got to post it on New York Times and this and this and this. He's like, contact me if you want to buy it.
If you want a Pee Wee.
All right, Skip. Well, I'd like to know, what is bringing you joy this week?
So I have two things that are bringing me joy this week. One is that me and my older son have made it through 28 days later and 28 weeks later, and we might go see 28 years later tonight, which is really fun for me. So
I'm very
he's
jealous.
he's into the zombies. He's like, all right, I want to watch some more scary movies. So I'm very excited about that. And the other thing is that we've started playing with our youngest son now, with both of them, but this is the first time for my youngest son. We're playing Pandemic Legacy, which is a board game that kind of evolves as you play it over a number of games and tells a story. And it's supposed to be too old for him, but we've been jamming complex board games down his throat for so long. He's enjoying it, and it's been really fun. It's even though we've played it before and we kind of know some of the things that are coming up, we try and not metagame and not play like we know. And it's been really fun. It's a fantastic game.
You know, you talk about these sort of activities you have with your kids and Jess, and I've when I was younger I wanted kids, but I think maybe we talked about it. I don't know. I wanted kids, but I kind of feel like that was just like a societal sort of expectation of me. Because as I got older, I'm like, no, I don't want kids, and I still don't want kids. But when I think about stuff like that, I'm like, that's really really nice. And I think about Jody and I playing our sad board games together, or doing our puzzles together. It's like just the two of us. But yeah, I mean, adding in like a couple of kids, like that's sweet, man. That's that's a team. You know, you've got a full game night whenever you want, and you can force them. You have to play.
Yeah. Well, it's fun because it's cooperative, so there's not like you're not working against each other. But yeah, like there are a lot of nice things about having kids, but there's a lot of trade-offs.
Of course. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
And my game night, if I had a family of four, would be competitive games. So there'd be crying and anger. Yeah, no, it wouldn't be like your cooperative games.
We have plenty of competitive games, but this one happens to be cooperative, and those are really fun. So what is bringing you joy this week, Carlos?
So I've got two, and I told myself that I was not going to bring in like timestamp type stuff for these episodes so that we can like be sneaky when we deliver them. But whatever, this brought me joy, and I got to say it. So we just ended June, which was Pride Month, and we really shit the bed by not talking about it. But next year we'll get there. So in Hungary, the country, the president had banned, and I say the president, I hate saying like, oh, the president did this, but I believe it was spearheaded by him. I don't think he's very much a strong man. But the president, the president, Viktor Orban, had all sort of observance of gay pride outlawed, and with like heavy fines and like the threat of arrest for participating in any kind of like parade or anything like that. And despite that, there was a gay pride like parade in March, an event in Hungary about, what was it, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, something like that. And there were over 200,000 people in the streets, packed. Like you would never have imagined that it was outlawed. And it was the kind of showing that, and the president commented, and was like, well, you know, this isn't something for police. It's not a police matter, and we just make sure everyone's like, he had to like save face because nobody listened to his threats. And there's like, well, the public wanted to do this, and you know, even though we disagree, like there's no cause for arresting them and this and this. So yeah, total about face. I don't know that it's legal, but it was.
They're not doing anything about it.
Nothing at all, and it was a massive showing. It was as if any other Pride Month event. So it was really nice to see. And people were dressed up in costumes. It wasn't just people showing up as like a presence there. No, it was full Pride Month. It was really neat. It was really neat to see. I mean, I saw it on the news. It wasn't like I was there. And my second joy, because I had to, was, so for the past, I don't know, right when I started working again, I had this red blotch on my nose. You can still kind of see it. And I could tell it was forming into like one of those painful, deep pimples. You know what I'm saying? The ones that you can't deal with because it's just like subdermal. And it was right on my nostril. It was extremely painful. And my nose, I looked like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It was so bright and red and embarrassing. There was no like whitehead or anything. It was just this big red. My nose was red. I looked like drunk or something.
Worst. Those are the worst.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah. And it hurt. Like I every now, like if I'd rub my nose, I'd be like, I'd forget that it was there, and it would just be so painful. And Jody was like, "You should put some concealer on." And I was like, "I'm not going to wear makeup." Mostly because I've seen women wearing concealer, and you can see like their peach fuzz. You can tell they're wearing concealer. That's not every case, obviously, but like you can tell they've got it in their like the peach fuzz on their face. I'm like, no, I don't want it to be obvious that I'm wearing makeup, and I don't want to do it. So I went to work like for one of my shifts with a bright red nose, and it just got worse. And so I was like, all right, well, show me this concealer. Let's see how this looks. And I put it on, and I'm like, hey, like you can't even tell that I've got anything there. And I thought it would rub off if I like swipe my nose. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to do it. I'm like, yeah, it's going to conceal it for 5 minutes until I like rub my nose and it's coming off. And she really didn't express to me that that's not the case. Like you have to rub it off. Like you have to work on it. So for like the past week, I've been putting concealer on this massive zit on my nose, and you can because her skin's a little bit lighter than mine. So I don't know. I guess they sell them in different shades. You can kind of tell that I've got something on there, but not really. And maybe it's because I'm not wearing my reading glasses, but maybe with them on, it's like crystal clear that I'm wearing makeup. But you know what? It's a lot better than having this bright red nose. And so one of my joys is the joys of concealer for my vanity. So yeah, I think the next time I've got an issue like that, I'm gonna maybe even purchase a concealer with my skin tones and deal with it that way. So yeah, fellas, if you've got a blemish, concealer works. I guess it's a secret that the ladies know, or anybody who wears concealer, and I highly recommend it.
Well, I love that your joys were Pride Month and wearing makeup. That's a big win for me.
I had not connected those dots, but that's funny. Yeah, but I stand by my joys.
Thanks for joining us. New podcasts every Monday. And if any part of this show has resonated with you, let us know at outsidethemanosphere@gmail.com, Instagram, or Facebook. Please like, rate, subscribe to the podcast, or recommend us to a friend. We hope you'll come back.